Welcome everybody. Assalamu alaikum. So today is, for the record, 42 minutes past 15 o'clock. It is now Tuesday, the 30th day of September. Truth and reconciliation, right? Welcome to Canada. Hallelujah. So today is an interesting day. Essentially, I'm going through my life motion, so to speak. Remember, you have to always have evidence, record, proof of the facts and the events as they transpire. So I had just came back from the court in Gatineau, right, 17th Laurier, and basically I had gone with my sister to inquire, right, about my outstanding court matters, because there's this allegation before the court that resulted in my unlawful detainment from an arrest from the 13th of September 2025 through the 19th of September 2025. So when I was released. Now, before I was being released, of course, for some reason I was brought back to detention center, even though the judge had basically agreed to release me on some bogus, unlawful, unreasonable bail condition, which again are not warranted. Under the Constitution, you have no reason, because you are just fabricating more evidence and more fuckery against the accused, which is innocent. He has done nothing wrong. And I show up to the courthouse. There's two files I'm given. The first file is the outstanding one. The second file is basically the one that has been dropped. And this goes back to my court matter that basically I had gone through the motion regarding the incident that took place on the 17th day of November 2023. So I had gone through the court motion. I had been taken to custody at the headquarters police station in Gatineau, Gerber, whatever you want to call that. I don't speak French, so welcome to Canada. English is a primary language, last I checked. So I had gone through, basically I was released on the day of 17th day of November 2023. Was given a promissory note to appear before the court, undertaking they call it, and on the 15th of March, that was my first court appearance. Now, a week before that, I was instructed to appear before the same police station to donate and volunteer my fingerprints, which I had no reason to, right? I mean, I was in the custody of the police for over 7 hours, and no one came to ask me for, basically fingerprints, because here I am. I was topless, right? They picked me up from the compound at the address where I had basically been going to visit family. And before you know it, now I'm given the 15th day of March as a first court. I show up, I'm given the disclosure, given a second court date on May 2nd. I go through the court motion. That's when I basically decided on my court trial type. Now, when you're in Canada criminally charged, there's fundamental justice, and there has to be a fair trial before the judge, and it's not like you go through the court hearing first day, right? You go through the motion, and in this case, the judge asked me what type of court do I want, because there's the provincial, basically the municipal lower court, and there's the superior higher court, right, for the jurisdiction of Quebec or Ontario or Alberta. Now, I had gone on May the 2nd, and I elected my choice for a public trial with a jury, which basically is a superior court. So this is a municipal court, lower court. I had requested, because by default, automatic right. You would have automatic right as an accused with any criminal charges. Now, normally when you are cited under the criminal code, which is basically RSC 1985 TC 46, they have to cite some bullshit code, because there's this is the summon for you to come and appear before the court on allegation of the offenses that you have committed, and it's for you to basically prove your innocence. If you believe you are innocent, you can self-represent under the Constitution. This is legal right, Section 11, right, of the Constitution of 1982 Canada, and Section 52, Subpart 2 VII, essentially is the Supremacy Clause, where Supremacy Clause is basically asserting, right? You assert and you affirm that the supreme law of the land, this is Canada, the Constitution of 1982, and its parents and what have you, and amendment thereof, is the supreme law of the land. That essentially, in layman term, means any lower laws or child laws, being municipal or which are subject to provincial acts of parliament for the specific jurisdiction, or if you're in Alberta, that's a legislative assembly, that basically will now submit to the Supreme Law of the land under the Constitution of Canada 1982, which affirms the parent, right? The parent being the British North American Act, and as the Supreme Law of the land. So now back to the British North American Act in 1867. Section 92 essentially, allows you as a natural person to assert your sovereign estate, right? So you're a sovereign citizen, which basically living on the land in Canada. We abide by the laws of the land, and the idea is natural law cause no harm. So you no longer have to submit and bend over for the likes of the federal government, which is operating within a trust law, right? This is a trust law. First triangle is an equal side triangle, 60 degrees, right? And the trustee is the government. Then you have the administrative side, executive arm, and then you have your accused or beneficiary, because there's a public trust. The public trust. What is the public trust? This is the taxpayers. We all basically go to work and you pay. At the source, it's deducted, right? So if you're in non-Quebec, if you're in a province other than Quebec, it's CRA, Canadian Revenue Agency, and for Quebec, it's the basically Quebec Revenue Agency, right? Now, no province, and this is why Alberta, for example, as a province, the managing of natural resources is it falls under the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction means who controls that, who is the rightful authorized entity, person to actually see and manage these natural resources. And essentially under the Constitution, this is falls under the jurisdiction of the province. So if in Alberta, clearly the people of Alberta would know better what would work for them. Hence you have the legislative assembly in Alberta with something like 88 members, and then you vote different parties, and the elected party leader essentially becomes the member of parliament, or MLA, if you will, and the same thing applies across Canada. Province, we have 10 provinces. When Canada first came to exist, it was formed following the Confederation of basically 1867 under the British North American Act, and Section 92 essentially is the sovereignty clause, right, where Alberta essentially had asserted its own sovereignty, because there's the federal government in Ottawa overreach over the management and oversight of natural resources specific to those people living in Alberta. So Canada is about 40 million people population. 25 million, or roughly close to 70%, is in the eastern provinces of Quebec and Ontario. So Quebec is roughly 10 million, Ontario is roughly 15 million, so that's 25 million, and Alberta is about 4.5 million, as I last checked. So when the government does you wrong, or anybody for that matter, you have to bring an application before the applicable and righteous court for the jurisdiction you're in. So if you're in Alberta, nobody's going to come from Quebec and for example, you're not going to come in touch with someone from Quebec unless that person from Quebec has business in Alberta, and perhaps you enter into some contract, perhaps for services, or perhaps for whatever the case may be, and there's a breach of contract, perhaps someone did you wrong, and you got to go through the court motion to basically sue that person to bring justice. Now, when you are in, inter-province, when you have different provinces involved, then you have to go to the Supreme, because if you have different brothers in dispute, they don't keep disputing between themselves, because the lower court have no jurisdiction. The superior court of the specific jurisdiction also cannot solve the matter, because if you live in Alberta, someone lives in Quebec, it's not going to work. Now you got to go to the Supreme Court of Canada, which is federal, and if that doesn't work out, well, you have King's Bench. Why do you have King's Bench? Because the sovereign of basically figure of Canada is the king shit, right, all the way in UK. I don't have no allegiance to king shit, because last I checked my passport, which was seized from me by the Quebec provincial police on the 13th of September 2025, was not returned to me following the verification of my ID, and basically it was seized without my consent. I don't have my passport on me. Why? So basically now we have the King's Bench, because in Canada, the federal government is nothing but a bylaw. So you have the trust law, as I mentioned, government, AE for administrative side, executive law enforcement, and then you have AB for accused versus beneficiary. Now that is bound by also contract law, which is a social contract. This is why the government has the fiduciary duty, and basically to do what? Safeguard and protect your fundamental, unalienable natural rights and freedom. This is part one of the Constitution of 1982, which is basically the Charter. Remember, understand, it does not grant you. It is only to safeguard and protect your unalienable natural rights and freedom, because those are granted at birth, natural birth process, and then you're given a name, and that becomes the body. And now when we separate the state, the body, from the estate, so now you have an estate, it is registered in your first name capital, last name capital. Now I'm claiming the name. So this is kind of part of where I am, and at this point, with the breach of trust, I don't need you to tell me that someone has breached trust, their trust with me. I am a law-abiding citizen. Same thing happens with any relationship. When someone does you wrong, there's a breach of trust. And the breach of trust means basically void contract. Contract is void. And again, when you look at the Constitution, Section 52, subpart 1, part VIR of the Constitution of 1982, right? The supremacy clause, like I said earlier, any child law, be it here or here, so this is provincial, these are municipalities, bylaws, rules and regulation, which are basically enforcing policies enacted by the Acts of Parliament. Once the bill goes through, it's got voted on, rubber stamp, and then essentially you get to become an act. Same thing with the Net Zero, for example. So the Net Zero Act is a federally act with respect to green energy and basically carbon tax and what have you. And it's a roughly $1 trillion cost from 2018 till 2030. Go back and read your own research. I'm just the guy who happened to have done his own research, only to be banned from a public platform called LinkedIn. It's internet, right? I cannot be banned from expressing my research and sharing my analysis. There are people who are paid to do this thing, and I'm volunteering my time and analysis because I'm an entrepreneur and I have to put data and make sense of the numbers, and people can understand that the green energy is nothing but a scam. I've been very vocal with that, and I was on LinkedIn since 2009, but it was nothing except for a wall of all my experience and my basically recommendation and achievement, so to speak, over 15 plus years of experience in the high-tech corporate world, both in the primarily startup, but I also worked in big corps, right? So I had jump-started my career in 2006 at Alcatel, and basically gone through the motion of navigating my career. And I left in 2021, just at the heel of the mass campaign for vaccination, which again, had been very, suffice to say, it's been very stressful time for not just myself and my family, immediate family, but everybody around in Canada. We have heard the news time and time again about these unlawful injections, where the government of Canada has coerced and used unlawful tactics to basically force naive and ignorant people to essentially take otherwise safe and effective snake oil potion. Now, nothing wrong with the vaccine if you want to take the vaccine, but the problem is this: when you step outside the rule of the law and now you are using tactics to coerce and threaten people of their livelihood, that is basically crime. It's, you're ignorant of the law yourself. As the federal government, you are going to be accused of breach of trust. Which one? Well, there's so many codes, So 121, 123, municipal corruption. You can go through you can throw the code at it, right? Section 336 is basically criminal negligence, right? Causing bodily harm, and not just bodily harm, because the same thing. You're a human being. You have every moment you have a different state of mind, different state of well-being and health, and you're not going to always be sitting under a tree. You have to go do things and go about life. And when the government, with their overreach and their corrupt stooges, there's no other way to say it but call a spade a spade. So basically, this is where we are in terms of not just my lawsuit, but where we are as Canadians. And right now we can do perhaps a poll and see how people do feel about these forced migrants, and under the guise, right, of humanitarian refugee crises. Look, I'm a born refugee myself. I was born refugee way back in my birth record is July 27, 1985. I was born in a city far away, Damascus, right, Syria. مخيم اليرموك. And then we landed to this land. We came to this land after 2 years application process. My father had to be a skilled worker to apply and be admitted or accepted into Canada as under skilled worker visa program. And no, you cannot work. You cannot work. Why? Because you don't have a 1 year Canadian experience. Fuckery, right? Nonetheless, my father at the time had, he's a fighter just like, I am. And he's gone through basically his certification to becoming a master electrician. He got a red seal, and he was able to work in, he can work across, Canada-wide and also in the Caribbean. He was working at one point, right? So now when we look at Canada and the state of Canadians, you see, native Canadians, people who have built this country with their, bare hands, sweat, blood, and look, come to Canada, the canal. We have one in Ottawa. We have like this, I don't know how many miles, the longest canal you can skate on. We attract so many tourists from all over the world, right? And that was dug by hand, the shovels. There was no cranes and what have you. And a lot of people, basically, they died, and they built the land, and you go to Alberta, same thing. They had all these aquifers. I was in Brooks. I was witnessing all these aquifers, and they had to basically deliver water to the flat land because you need to get your crops, and you have to irrigate and what have you. It's a masterpiece, right? Like marvelous engineering. Now we can go actually there. I had posted on X when I got to Brooks, and I was basically taking pictures. I had posted a video on that. Anyways, this is not to kind of repeat, but when you are in Canada, it's a land of opportunity, the land of the free, right? This is the Canadian dream that I was, and we all were sold. You come here, you do your best, you go to school, you attend higher education, you graduate, you look for a job, you start your career, perhaps you find your loved one, and you tie the knot, you get married, and Bob's your uncle, right? Bob's your uncle. Only for the government at one point to basically try to infringe on your own jurisdiction with your amicable agreement, common law that has basically wanted to just for irreconcilable difference. You can't force people after 14 years to stay with you. We came amicably, we leave amicably. Nobody put the guns to your head to marry somebody and stay with them for 14 years. Likewise, nobody's putting the gun to your head to leave that person. You choose, you choose your own action, and you're responsible for your own action. Now, I have no issue when my ex-wife of 14 years, roughly, a committed relationship. We were married for over 10 years, but we have been committed since 2008, January 25th. We met that day. My daughter was born on the exact same day, as a reminder. So suddenly, the ex-wife now, which is born Catholic, Latina, there's nothing you could have done to basically force her not to marry this man who showed her nothing but love. Compassion, empathy, and respect, and what have you. Remember where you come from. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Exactly know who you are. So, this is the subject of going to the court, Supreme Court of Canada. I could give a shit about your fucking lower courts and common superior court, so to speak. Release condition, bail release condition, which are unlawful. I do not consent. I don't give a shit what you think. You're gonna listen to this as we speak. You're hearing this because guess what? You're going to receive this email. Surprise, surprise. AJ is back, and you are going to be called back to the Supreme Court because you have to answer for justice, and you have to answer before your child that you have deprived for over now a year from her natural father to being with her father who she shares nothing but love and respect, and you are in breach of trust yourself, right? When we have an amicable divorce agreement before the Supreme Court of Justice, on your on your motion, like you had a motion, you want to go to the the avocate, right? You want to go to see a mediator because clearly you and I know better. We don't have the money to go spend on the legal fees when we can just put this money towards our daughter and our well-being. It's not rocketry. Told you, do not buy me out. It's a bad idea. But no, you had other plans. Perhaps your ex-manager can come and testify because both of you are complicit, right? Why would you go out and basically listen to your ex-manager and the likes of third parties which have nothing to do with our communal holy union? We got married in church, last I checked, August 31st, 2012. Father Jorge, the church, the Catholic Church, right? The Latino Catholic Church of Christian Martyrs, right here in Ottawa. Look it up, near Main Street, by St. Paul University, if you will. There's a church over there. And my chiropractor, I used to go there, so I know the area very well. And I also used to live on, 1801 Riverside Drive when we first landed. That was the first address we lived, 1801 Riverside Drive, K1 G0E7. I remember the whole address, unit 1206. Yeah, that's right. So I had gone to high school, Richmond High School. You were going to St. Pat's. We only crossed paths at university when I was back to my fourth year. Last year and fourth year project to finish my requirements, prerequisite before I, graduated in the field of aerospace electronic system design engineering. Where you schmuck have what? What again do you have? Yeah, English minor, history. It looks like you have to learn history again because clearly you failed in your history class. You don't even understand basic rules of the law. You don't understand basically how Canada came to exist. You were the refugee, right? Born here because your parents had to escape the war in El Salvador. Yeah, good for you. Remember where you're from. I'll tell you where you're from. If you don't remember, I'll tell you, right? So, yeah, what are you going to tell Father Jorge? What are you going to tell your daughter? What are you going to tell the community? That you fucked up your own husband, you stabbed him in the back and in the heart, right? That's fine. I don't give a shit about you. I don't give a shit about you, truly. But guess what? You're going to come to the court. And I'll decide. Because you're going to have to answer to justice. And it's a Supreme Court, public trial with a jury. So it's not your fuckery, legal counsel and your fuckery, complicit, whatchamacallit, the justice, right? Or the judge that has been clearly bribed. There's no other reason. I did not consent. How is it possible that suddenly on the 1st of December 2024 you go about and now you have basically what they call a restraining order against your ex-husband and love of your life of 14 years with amicable divorce agreement with a child? Why? I'm not working. What's your problem? If anything, I've gone to jail. I came to tell you that I have been wrongfully done. I have basically I have sustained an undue bodily harm, right? This is not my original tooth. This is the result of basically police brutality and assault, right? Why? Because I don't speak French. Racism, discrimination towards perhaps I don't look white, right? I don't look one of the Quebecois, right? The queers, right? That's what it is. Your daughter, my daughter, that is. She's my daughter first before she's yours because I have the seed. You were the soil, but you're the corrupt soil yourself right now. After 14 years, you are in breach of trust, and you will be named liable, personally liable, before the Supreme Court of Canada. This is not a joke. So you really must understand. It's not about he said, she said. It's not a question of opinion. It's a question of facts, evidence. 14 years, amicable divorce agreements. I have no criminal record, zero, nothing. We were happily married, happily divorced. What's it to you? Because you don't understand basic shit. You know what the saying goes, So for that reason, I'm speaking the way I speak, and I don't give a shit to, plaster your picture and your name over the internet or over everywhere, because, it concerns me, first of all. It concerns AJ and my daughter, Haneen, which you had to go to court and drop the middle name because now suddenly her name is all English bullshit. But guess what? She has my last name. You could not dispute the fact she's my natural daughter. I'm the biological father. Under natural law, you are nothing because you decided to leave. Last I checked, the church does not allow divorce. Now you went against your own fucking faith because you have none. So now you gotta pay up. Civil code, right? Constitutional right. Common law, right? Because guess what? I'm the head of the house, whether you like it or not. I will always be the head of the house, whether you like it or not. Not you, not the fucking queer Quebec government, not the fucking Supreme Court. No one. Faith is one. Law. The law is clear. Which law you say? Natural law. 2 eyes, 2 hands, until perhaps someone assaults you and you can't. I no longer can bend my finger right now, right? I can't play the guitar. Flamenco player. I'm an engineer. I have my passions. Everything that I gave you, my drawing, my sketch, will have to come back. You're not worth it. You're not worthy of anything I gave you. You're lucky. Consider yourself lucky. Be grateful. Because We'll go through the court motion and I will decide. I'm not the judge. I will decide. Why do I say that in such confidence? Because once he speaks the truth, you don't give a shit. You don't give a shit. And yes, you're living in Quebec now. Enjoy your time. I told you last year, it's your fucking last supper. And I'll say it again. It's your fucking last supper. That's right. If there's justice, that is. Now, if you come in good faith and before the court apologize and go on your knees like you did 2 days before the fucking wedding, which I wasn't willing to, because I didn't stop loving you. I loved you until you, on the 13th of September 2025, when I came in good faith to speak with you, right? Only for you to run inside the house, slam the door, and call the authorities. Well, I'd like to see the authorities showing up, because all of you are complicit and you are named liable. Cough up the price. I have my price. I told you. August 24, 2024, that was $1 million 1 minute. 1 minute is 100 milliseconds. Today, 2 years after the fact, after all this bad faith, all this ping-ponging and, the fabrication of, false facts, right, and evidence, right? Well, guess what? It's a $1 million, right? Not per minute. It's going to be $100 million per millisecond. That's right. That's right. Because there's nothing you can do. There's no money that will bring back my tooth back. There's nothing that will bring back all these, moments and, milliseconds with my daughter that I had no reason not to be able to enjoy. And I was deprived as a natural father, let alone my child daughter has been deprived from her father, her extended family, her cousins, her grandmother, her aunt, her, extended family on my father's side. Yeah, because guess what? You all coming. I am AJ, A.K. Ahmed Jr. I'm the chief. I'm the sole chief executive of my legal estate, registered in my name, and the sole trustee, unauthorized trustee that is, of my social trust account, registered in my SIM card, 527-514-186. That's right. So we'll have all this before the court. This is just an introduction, 27 minutes in. So perhaps you can start praying, because you need to pray hard. That's right. You need to start praying and pray hard, because, every, so-called blissful ignorance can be pardoned. And this is why I went to see you on the, 13th of September 2025. But now you show your true color and your bad faith and just the damage you have, right? You have, caused, the harm you have caused, undue harm you have caused to your daughter.